Yes, hello everyone and welcome to all our West Australian football fans to another edition of Around the WAFL, hot off the heels of an absolute banger of an opening round in the WAFL for season 2024, and we're going to review all 5 games for you today here on Around the WAFL on this, the first edition of April. Hard to believe we are already in April. Time goes by very, very quickly. We'll also have our Player of the Year votes and much more on today's episode on your podcast provider and on YouTube. Paul Persick with you in the studio alongside me, Ethan Roth. Ethan, it's safe to say that round 1 was an absolute cracker.
Mate, that would be an understatement. Great to be back with you, Paul. Yeah, unbelievable first round. Some upsets. I know my tipping was a bit horrible, so I'll have to improve on that. But yeah, as you said, it's flown by already and plenty to recap on.
Absolutely. And listeners, let us know where you're listening from, and also give us a bit of a question on what you thought of round 1 of the WAFL. It could be a chance that you could be on the air. Your question, that is, could be mentioned on the air in a future episode. This is Around the WAFL, your go-to WAFL podcast in 2024.
Punt from 50, win. Little too into the game, win. Too cocky, almost a win. Risking it all for the glory, win. It's win-win at the WAFL. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at waffle.com.au.
Okay, our first guest this week is a superstar from the Claremont Football Club. He gathered a lot of possessions in their game against West Perth on the Thursday night, and we're glad to have him on the show today. He is, well, his resume speaks for itself. Premiership player, Sandover, best and fairest, you name it. He's the one and only Jye Bolton. He's good enough to join us on Around the WAFL. Jye, how are you, mate?
Yeah, going well, thanks.
Great to have you on the show. First of all, what's your view on playing WAFL night football? Of course, opening game Thursday night on the big Pentanet Stadium. What's the feeling that you have playing night WAFL football?
I thought it was pretty well put together. Seemed like a pretty good vibe out there, and drew a pretty large crowd. So it was good having the music in between quarters and in between the games as well. But yeah, obviously it would have been better if we came away with a win, but I think it was a good concept.
And you were the leading possession getter on the night with 32 yourself. You won a lot of possession count as a team too. How's the body feeling personally? I think it's your 9th year in the comp now.
Yeah, feeling fine. A few guys have been asking me, because I played a bit of footy up in Darwin over the summer as well, how I'm feeling. And yeah, I feel the same as what I did when I was 22, so no difference there, but good that we've got a large break after round 1 as well, so playing on a Thursday night and then nothing to back up to the following Saturday gives you plenty of time to recover.
Now, you spoke to me before the game. I was at the ground on Thursday about your experience playing in Darwin. It's always pretty hot over there in Darwin. For our Around the WAFL listeners as well, what was the team that you played with in Darwin, and a couple of your teammates that really stood out?
Yeah, Southern Districts Crocs, and I got to play with a few guys who played some really good footy up there and have pretty good resumes themselves. And Jed Anderson was one of the guys that I loved playing with, and Joe Brander as well was in our team. Played with a few other guys that are great footballers in their own right, and Perth Colts. Kid who's just come down, Taj Downey as well. So, there's plenty of talent up there, and love the experience.
And looking ahead to this weekend against the Sharks, obviously they'll be looking to bounce back themselves as well. You must be looking forward to round 2.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're the benchmark at the moment, and looking forward to testing ourselves against them. And I'm sure they'll be pretty hungry after coming off a loss themselves. And I'm sure they'll be looking to try and go back to back, so it'll be a good contest.
Your side had a pretty big third quarter on Thursday night against West Perth, who seemed to have stalled in that third term. 3 goals to only just the 2 behinds. Yourself dominant. Eastland played an influential role in the ruck as well. And Declan Mountford down back, he really played a big role in shutting down that powerful forward combination of Keitel and Knott in that third term.
Deck probably played more midfield. Deck Hardesty was did pretty well down back, but and so did Eric Benning. But we just cost ourselves a bit of a poor start, really. So we're just fighting to get back in the game, and then even though we played some good footy for a quarter or so. It's not enough to win games of footy. So, we go away and try and fix that going into this week.
And I notice you don the long sleeves once again. Is that going to be an ongoing thing for the rest of the year, or is that just under lights situation?
Yeah, I don't know. Just gave it a bit of a try and see how we go. I don't know. Just play it week to week. Don't really won't lock it in, but didn't mind it.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Well, Jye, great game from you individually as always. May not have been the result that you're after, but your boys are determined to bounce back against East Fremantle at home, Revo Fitness Stadium on Saturday afternoon. Thanks for your time, Jye. All the very best for round 2.
Thanks, guys.
That was Jye Bolton, champion at the Claremont Football Club. And the long sleeves, we might even ask our listeners for that. Would you like to see maybe Jye Bolton wear the long sleeves a little bit more? Because, that's something that we never thought we'd see in WAFL. Jye Bolton with the long sleeves gives a bit of the vintage look to some of the WAFL stars of yesteryear and even some of the VFL, AFL stars of yesteryear as well.
It does, yeah. And Jye obviously very good with his time. The only thing he's chasing now is that elusive premiership. He's achieved everything else in the game. So long year yet, but, he'll be no doubt pushing to be one of the mainstays against East Freo.
Absolutely. We always do appreciate his time. Of course, he's very good with the media and, of course, good on the field as well. He delivered in spades on Thursday night in the opening game against West Perth at Pentanet Stadium. Speaking of that game, we're going to review that one and all the others of round 1 right now here on Around the Waffle.
Get to Waffle Wonderland at Sullivan Logistics Stadium in Leederville from 2 p.m. Saturday. Watch East Perth take on Swans. It's Waffle Footy with a wonderland of food trucks, giveaways, DJ and kids activities. Tickets at waffle.com.au.
Okay, let's start off with the Thursday night cracker at Pentanet Stadium, Ethan. 4,150 were on hand to witness an absolute beauty to open the opening round of WAFL football. West Perth coming from nowhere to snatch the game by 2 points over Claremont.
Terrific atmosphere. The Waffle Wonderland really worked a treat there.
Great
under
concept.
lights. And in terms of the game, West Perth got off to a cracker, and then obviously, it was a bit of a seesawing affair throughout. And how about the Wiz to cap it off a round 1 victory?
That's
just sealing it. Who else?
Clutch as clutch can get. And what about the celebration afterwards? I mean, when Notty kicked that goal on the left foot, Corey Rundle, he just basically picked him up and body slammed him. That's one of the wildest goal celebrations I've ever seen in modern times. But it was a great game. Great way to open the season. The momentum shifted back and forth between both the sides. West Perth had the initiative in the first half. Then Claremont took it right back. 3 goals to 2 behinds in the third term. And then all of a sudden, 5 goals to 4 in a frenzy final term. The intensity lifted from both sides. And that's what the fans came to see. An intense game, and they got it.
Yeah, and you see plenty of multiple goal kickers from both sides. Keitel kicks 3 goals. Young Jack Damarty kicks 2. Keegan Knight, as we said, a couple there. And Bailey Rogers got on the scoreboard, as did Manu and Main Waring. So, it wasn't just a one-off performance from either side, from either players to get the job done. So, yeah, very, very close game, and that's what we like to see to start the season.
It was really a tale of the young stars as well. The experienced guys, did their bit, and so did the younger guys as well. You talked about Damarte as well, kicked a couple of goals. Also, the likes of Jasper Scaife as well, who played his first league game for the season. He shifted up forward, kicked a crucial goal. And also Connor West, of course, in his first game back at West Perth, a valuable 21 disposals. I think for West Perth, it's going to be a year where the young kids are really going to have to step up to the plate, because a lot of the experienced guys like Black, Meadows, Notty, Keitel are really getting to sort of the prime of their careers or the twilight of their careers, and it's going to be those young kids that are going to step up to the plate and really have a big task at hand to contribute to West Perth's possible success in 2024.
They're blooding a lot of them as well. You look at Bevan, Scaife, Skender, Damarty, the list goes on. So, as you said, it'll be interesting to see those sort of middle players in between that, but the youngsters, they're only going to get better with more exposure. That's a given.
Absolutely, and playing on a big ground at Pentanet Stadium, on a Thursday night as well, suits them tremendously. But take nothing away from Claremont as well on the other side of the coin. Claremont, they love playing at Pentanet Stadium. They've got some great round 1 wins over West Perth over the last couple of years, and on Thursday night they were in a tremendous position at 3/4 time, leading by a couple of goals. You talked about Mountford playing a bit of midfield, as Bolton alluded to, and a little bit down back. Also, Eastland in the ruck. He played a huge role in the third quarter revival where Claremont needed to take back control of the centre clearances.
I think it's a no-brainer that Ollie Eastland's the best ruck in the comp.
Absolutely.
By now. He just continues to go to the next level, and he's just a ability to do work around the ground as well. He's not just your typical ruck tap ruckman.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's really just adding another string to his bow and going from strength to strength.
45 hitouts to go with his 23 disposals. Like you said, his follow-up work is absolutely important for Claremont to have a big chance of getting that elusive premiership that they haven't won in 12 years. Jye Bolton, 32 touches, and also Declan Mountford with 25 as well. Mungaroo Frederick, his speed across half forward and in the midfield was also very impressive. 5 marks to go with his 15 disposals. He's going to be one to watch, so look out for Mungaroo Frederick in the future in the WAFL season. West Perth getting up in that opening game, 11-9 to 11-7 over at Pentanet Stadium. Okay, let's go to the second game of the round, the grand final rematch, and Peel Thunder gaining a little measure of retribution at Lane Group Stadium. Another opening round win at home against East Fremantle, 12-10-82 to 9-9-63. And it would pretty much safe to say the first quarter really set it up for Peel Thunder. Centre clearances, forward pressure, crucial for the Thunder. And to get off to a good start against the reigning premiers, they did just that.
Another tip wrong from me. I genuinely would not have thought Nathan Wilson would kick 5 goals in the game of football, but full forward, he was almost the difference in the end.
He was. I mean, 5 goals straight and only had the 6 disposals. Adam Reid, the new coach of Peel Thunder, made a big move. That was a big gamble when you look at it pre-game to stick him up forward, and the gamble worked wonders. 5 goals straight, and if you put him there in Peel Thunder's forward line, depending on how the Dockers go, because that's always the big question mark, depending on the Dockers and how they go this season, if you put him as a permanent forward and he's going to kick bags of goals like he did there, that's going to put Peel right in contention for a premiership.
And because he's not an AFL listed player anymore, he's
That's
not
right.
getting higher up feedback from Freo saying we want him playing halfback because that's the position he's going to play if he comes to the Freo side. So Adam Reid has more authority to say, no, I'll put him forward. Let's try something new with him. And and I think a lot of people thought, Freo don't have as many AFL players for Peel, but clearly they proved them wrong. And Neil Erasmus, he just racks up touch after touch.
He's a ball magnet.
Footy. He just, every time I watch, he just seems to get 30, 40 touches. It's just unbelievable, and he can't really be stopped, to be honest.
No, Neil Rasmus was absolutely sensational. I mean, 36 touches, 6 tackles as well, 5 inside 50s, almost the near perfect game for Neil Erasmus. Sensational performance he put up against East Fremantle on the weekend. He's going to be one that really is going to be a big one for the Thunder this season.
Absolutely, and it's not all doom and gloom for East Freo, I don't think. Obviously, the -4, but Bryn Teakle, I was really impressed with him. That running goal that he kicked in the first half, you don't see big men do that too often. Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on East Freo? Like, obviously, they're further behind now. I know there's a bit of talk about the premiership hangover. It's so early on. We don't want to run with that headline.
Yeah, I think that's way too early to put in that premiership hangover headline over East Fremantle. I mean, it's only the one game where we've still got another 20 rounds to go. They weren't too bad. They at least got the margin down to 19 points. But, at some point during that second half, it looked pretty grim for East Fremantle. They found their way back into the game later on through the work of Milan Murdoch, who again fired up in the midfield, 27 disposals and 11 tackles. Thomas Bennett, and as you said, Bryn Teakle making his return to East Fremantle after a stint at Port Adelaide, delisted at the end of the year. 6 inside 50s as well for Bryn Teakle. So I reckon his return could pay some big dividends for East Fremantle, but they just weren't able to stop the rampant pressure of Peel Thunder, and they were just basically outcoached as well. Bill Monahan simply in this game was outcoached by Adam Reid.
And I don't want to make excuses, but I don't think there's too many times where after winning a premiership they have that many outs from their premiership
6
team
outs,
in round one, like that many premiership players. So that's a bit of a concern, I think. If they can get those guys back on the park, they're obviously going to improve. But, there's an element of unluckiness to that, but at the same time, they really want to get those guys back on the park for some continuity.
Yeah, and that's what they need East Fremantle early on. I mean, they didn't play a bad game, but it was just the experienced players that they were missing out there on the field for round one against Peel Thunder. The Thunder winning by 19 points in the grand final rematch. Okay, third game of this opening round. We go to Fremantle Oval and East Perth getting the chocolates there by some 6 goals in that game against South Fremantle, even without Hammer Brayshaw. But the big story out of that game, Ethan, is another one of their star midfielders in a little bit of hot water. Angus Schumacher reported for a sling tackle on a Bulldogs player. They're sweating on the verdict from the match review officer this week.
Yeah, and Sandover favourite among some. Speaking of Sandovers, no Sandover, no worries for East Perth. As they get the job done. Obviously, they'll welcome back Hamish Brayshaw happily for the next game. But, East Perth, too good, as we sort of expected. I mean, South Rio did put up a little bit of a fight, but I think there was just too many... The cavalry didn't arrive enough.
Too many passengers, really.
That's right. too many passengers, inexperienced, but East Perth, they don't mind going to South Fremantle Oval, let me tell you. They don't. It's almost like a little home away from home for them in recent times.
Yeah, they've played pretty well over there at Fremantle Oval. The pockets over there particularly suit them very well. They had a victory there last time back in round 10 it was last year, and they got the job done in emphatic style. That first quarter, like what Peel Thunder had against East Fremantle, East Perth got off to a great start in the first quarter, 3 goals to just the 1 behind. And you talk about, no Sandover medalists, no worries. Mitch Crowden led the charge, 28 possessions. Thomas North, 27. And Angus Scott, 27 as well. Scotty Jones making his return as well from a broken leg he sustained last season. 32 hit-outs, impressive return to form.
Love to see that. He's just so dominant at WAFL level. It's just that big body and gives first use perfectly. So, he's a revelation for them.
Certainly is. But also a couple of the other younger boys as well really stepped up to the plate. You talk about Zachary Rakos as well, 15 disposals, 6 marks as well. Angus Schumacher, we talked about him as well. And Christian Amaduri as well. He's been at WAFL level for a long, long time. Played a little bit more up forward this time around against South Fremantle. 3 goals from 7 tackles as well. He's going to be one of those players that can really play a big role, maybe a little bit more up forward rather than a midfielder, because I reckon that midfield calibre, Brayshaw, Crowden, Schumacher, that's your 3 concrete midfielders right there. East Perth, got to get a goal-kicking mid. Amaduri could be that guy. Transition from midfield to the forward line could provide a big boost to their scoreboard pressure.
He's a good size, isn't he? Almost like an old-fashioned footballer with the way he's built.
Yeah.
But I think we spoke in the season preview that they need others to step up if a Mitch Schofield does get shut down, for example, as he did. Not that terrible game by any standard, but still, you need those goal-kicking midfielders and guys who can sort of split their time between forward and midfield.
And as Toby McQuilkin played that role very well down back, he shut Mitch Schofield. He put him right out of business for the day, held him to just the 1 behind. 23 touches and the 10 marks as well. I think he was, despite the obvious from Florenka, also Schloith and even Tom Blenchton, who saw a lot of the footy, I think Toby McQuilkin, he was tasked with shutting down that forward line. He did it very well. And he was a difference for South Fremantle in making that margin a little bit more respectable then, because it looked pretty grim before half-time.
Yeah, massive fan of Toby out of the back half. He's so good with his foot skills and his, kicking and his distribution, but he can also shut down an opponent as well. So he has that balance between defense and offense as a rebounding halfback. And you speak about Jake Florenka, 34 disposals, probably felt like he, was left out to dry a bit by his teammates.
Well, a bit of a lone hand. Played a bit of a lone hand,
obviously,
really.
Sloth coming back. But Florenka, I remember his form last year, a couple of years ago, before he got that call-up for the West Coast Eagles. He was on fire. He was arguably the best player in the competition by some way.
And he's maintaining that form as well to start off the season. Like you said, another 34 disposal game, but he also laid out 9 tackles as well. His physical pressure at the football is absolutely tremendous. But yeah, he did sort of play a little bit of a lone hand. Hayden Schloith, decent return from him. He's showing he hasn't lost any spring in his step despite the result. 23 disposals, 5 marks as well, and 2 inside 50s. I think for him, it's just all about getting those miles in, returning to WAFL level, and then with a couple of the big games coming, he could really lift the intensity up.
And because the bar is raised so high for a Schloith, we probably shouldn't expect him to be in Sandover form straight away, sort of thing.
Give it a long-term thing, yeah.
You got to remember he's 30, 31 now, and he's just come back from a year in country football. So, we shouldn't expect him to get the 30s each week, even though by Schloith standards, he'll probably do that anyway.
Yeah, I think so. That's Hayden Schloith for you. Always a ball magnet, always determined. But the East Perth Royals getting the job done. First win of the season by 6 goals. Now, who would have thought that the Eagles would be right in the game against Swan Districts at 3/4 time over at Steel Blue Oval, but in the end, as many would have thought, the class of the Swans really told. 21-11, 137 to the Eagles, 10-13, 73. But let's go to Swan Districts first of all. Got the points. Lee Coleman, what a presence. He's going to be up forward after this first game. 6 goals, 2 from 11 kicks. He was one that we didn't expect to kick a big bag against the Eagles. More often than not, it'd be the like of Thomas Edwards maybe, or even William Reedy. Of course, they kicked 5 between them. But Lee Coleman, he really started off the year with a bang. 6 goals, 2, and including 8 marks.
It's a good point you make, because he's a handy recruit, and I think we probably undersold Swan District's recruits in general. I think you look at Jye Chalcraft, or however you pronounce his name. Apologies to Jye, but 35 disposals. And
Jye Chalcraft, yeah.
Chalcraft, yeah, I got that right. So there you go. Nick Rocker, 34 disposals, coming from Geelong, VFL, and then South Australia, respectively. no one's really spoken about these guys, and
They're
they
under
might
the
be flying
radar.
out of the radar a bit.
Yeah, they're some of the players that, didn't get a lot of credit for their contributions away from the WAFL, but also how much value that these new signings have got. I was very impressed with Nick Rokar. His efficiency with his disposal, 32 possessions and the 9 marks. Also, Jarvis Pina across half back end in the midfield as well, spoke his praises as well. Josh Sepro played his role too. And, of course, Aiden Clark, who was last year's Player of the Year and around the WAFL, 7 marks as well. Everyone contributed, and they lifted their intensity when the Eagles came close to trying to snatch the game.
And I think those recruits help out the likes of Clark by, easing the pressure off a little bit. Clark can still do his thing, but, all the attention suddenly isn't on Clark from an opposition point of view. So it really balances out their midfield really well. And a couple of youngsters like Bryce Watson comes up to league footy, does well, 19 disposals. I think he had 5 or 6 marks as well. So, I don't think it's all doom and gloom with Swan Districts, as some, including myself, had in the season preview.
Absolutely. Swan Districts could be those ones that may unexpectedly leap into that final 5 if they continue this form up. Credit to the West Coast Eagles, though. They gave it absolutely everything. They produced some really good football. Harley Sparks, 20 disposals. Andrew Gaff as well, who has had another week in WAFL. Won't be easily forgotten his performance over there at Bassendean. 29 possessions, 7 marks and 9 tackles as well. His experience playing to the forefront for the Eagles side that needed a bit of a boost after 2 horrid seasons.
Yeah, sure, obviously Andrew Gaff's been out of form at AFL level, but he's no doubt obviously going to help going back to WAFL, and the youngsters are just going to enjoy that, in that midfield. Clay Hall, 17 disposals, a really rate Clay Hall. Just racks up the footy so much. I know 17 isn't a super high number, but considering it's his first game in Eagles colours, he's just an asset for them. And they had some AFL experience, but you still got guys like Sparks, 25 disposals, carrying his own. It wasn't an absolute blowout, and I don't think the Eagles can. They can still hold themselves reasonably high.
They just ran out of legs at the end. Swan Districts, they had a little bit more in reserve in the tank in that one. A lot of players who flew under the radar pre-season are really coming into their own. They had 13 more inside 50s, and they were a lot more efficient at their disposal, 65% to 43%. But at the end of it, of course, it was Swan Districts 21-11 to 10-13 over the West Coast Eagles. Now we go to the final game of the opening round of 2024. And Ethan, I usually don't brag, but what did I say on Thursday? What did I say?
Kudos to you, Paul. You predicted this, and I'll put my hand up and say I didn't.
Well, I'm going to be blunt on this as well. That was an unusually un-Subiaco-like performance when you think about it, because they were going into this game with all the experience in the world. They were expected to win. They had some tremendous recruits. I mean, don't get me wrong, Greg Clark, new captain, played his role brilliantly. But with that last quarter, that's something that we didn't expect from Subiaco, and something we didn't expect from Perth either. For Perth to just jump out of the gates in the last quarter to kick 3 goals to just that one behind when the chips were down, that really is a win that's going to lift Perth as far as their team morale and their confidence for the season ahead. Great win it was over at Lathlane, 10-10 to 8-8 on Saturday night.
Recruiting for the now, I think, as I said in the season preview. Yeah, look, I was at this game, and I thought when Soko and Mayo kicked early goals, I thought they're going to have a day out. Could be a one-sided affair, but they were pretty well restricted after that.
They were,
the Perth defenders came back well. I think Charlie Constable is, just going to change that football club and the whole dynamic, along with your Sam Simpsons and your Aaron Clark significantly. And I'd love to know the last time that Perth beat Subi in all 3 grades.
It was a very, very long time. We have to go back to the 60s it was, I can recall. Shout out to Rick Gauchi from WAFL Footy Facts providing that one. Somewhere around the 60s where Perth beat Subiaco for the first time in all 3 games. And we'll give you some more facts on round 1 in just a little bit. But Jacob Caniglio as well, I thought he really was the glue that held that back 6 together. Played a bit of midfield, but played mostly down back as well in that half-back line. Played such a big role in shutting down that line's forward 6, 26 disposals, 7 marks as well. And whenever the Subiaco were trying to get that ball in that 50 in the last quarter, when the game was in the balance, Caniglio was often there first to the football.
He just puts his body on the line, and I get the sense that he's a real spiritual leader at the Demons there. I think Aaron Clark, I want to talk about him. He looks like a real addition up forward. Every time the ball came in, he just looked like he was in pole position, kicked 3. But if he wasn't marking it, he was in such a dangerous position that he was getting free kicks and he was making the most of his opportunities. And yeah, there's other. I think Josh Edwards, a youngster who's come across from the Eagles, looked really good as that ruckman, but also went forward and impacted the scoreboard. So they're youngsters and are really playing a part. And another one is Daniel Hill off halfback flank. He looked exceptional.
And his speed across halfback, run and carry, and the follow-up as well. His follow-up work isn't rated as highly as it should, but what he showed in round one was absolutely exceptional.
There's not much of him. He's a light figure, but what he lacks in, I guess, size, he makes up with skill and speed, as we said.
Also, Glenn Savini had his number taken for misconduct, of course, in that stage in the game as well. So Subiaco will be sweating on that, as well as the 14-point loss to the Demons on that one. For Subiaco, Greg Clark, as I said earlier, 39 possessions, led from the front when the chips were down, 9 inside 50s. Lee Kitchen showing his experience. Felt a bit weird not seeing him wearing the number 1 anymore. Yes. He's got the number 17 on his back for this year, but regardless of the number he's got at the back of his jumper, he continues to show why he's one of the best midfielders in the competition.
I did think that, almost like a new recruit. Who's this bloke? But he racked them up along with your Hickmots. After the first quarter, they just couldn't capitalise going in forward 50, I thought. Some skill errors, but I don't think it's all doom and gloom. Like, they're still yet to welcome back Taj Schofield, who didn't play. He's going to be back, yeah. Kyron Hayden, when he comes back from that knee injury at some stage. And I feel like guys like Marlon Corbett from the Gold Coast and Foley, they fitted in nicely in game one. So it wasn't a total disaster from a Subi point of view.
But it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call for Subiaco. They cannot be complacent against sides like Perth if they want to make another assault on that premiership. So this loss for Beau Wardman's boys will serve as a nice kick up the backside, and they can get to a good run of wins on the board, starting with that game in round 2 against Peel Thunder this Sunday afternoon at Sullivan Logistics Stadium. Before we go to the Player of the Year votes, a couple of fascinating facts on this opening round. Thanks to Rick Gauchi from WAFL Footy Facts. Aaron Black became the 5th West Perth player to record 150 wins. Perth broke a 14-game losing streak against the Lions, 1 loss short of their longest. Swan Districts, of course, had 9 straight wins over the West Coast Eagles. The Eagles still yet to defeat them. Tony Knott, who's been one of the longest-serving players in WAFL in recent history, broke the club record for games won at Swan Districts. He passed Don Langsford with 142 wins, and also first time since round 3, 1998, that Claremont, South Fremantle, and Subiaco, some of the powers in the WAFL in the last couple of decades, have been outside the top 4. Since the WAFL has had a 10-team competition in 5 years, it never ever occurred, and the first time that East Perth, Swan Districts, Perth, and Peel and West Perth have been in the top 5 together after just one round of football.
Wow, there's a few milestones for you. And another one, Andrew Gaff played his first WAFL game since the 9th of July 2011.
Whoa.
So that's a long time back when he when there was no alignment with WAFL and AFL clubs, so he played for South Fremantle. So that's a long time between drinks, to say the least.
Certainly is, but a history-making opening round in WAFL 2024. Will there be more? That remains to be seen. This is Around the WAFL, your go-to WAFL podcast in 2024.
Win. Win. Almost a win. Win. It's win-win at the WAFL. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at waffle.com.au.
Okay, Ethan, it is time for the first time in 2024, the votes for the Around the WAFL Player of the Year. We're going to start things off with 1 vote for Lee Coleman of Swan Districts. An amazing performance from him. We didn't expect him to be that big leading goal kicker for the Swans, but he put in a tremendous performance against the Eagles. He's going to be one for to watch. Scotty Jones of East Perth gets 2 votes. Great return for him with a broken leg. Dominated the centre clearances. His follow-up work may not have been as big as Oliver Eastland, who's stiff to miss out on a vote. He's very tough to miss out, but he was very effective all game, as well as Oliver Eastland. But Jonesy, I think made a huge difference all the game from the start as well, when East Perth got the initiative from that first quarter. 3 votes, Luke Meadows of West Perth. His efficiency when West Perth were under pressure in midfield was a huge key, and maybe was a huge difference in taking back control of the centre clearances for West Perth from the start of that last term. 4 votes, Nathan Wilson of Peel Thunder. Genius move by Adam Reid to stick him up forward, and Nathan Wilson delivered in spades, 5 goals straight. Although he didn't have a lot of the football, his effectiveness when he had it in his hand played a huge role for Peel Thunder. And for the first time in 2024, the Around the WAFL top gun, round 1, 5 votes, Jacob Caniglio of the Perth Football Club. Held the back 6 of Perth together very, very well. When Subiaco looked to get it inside 50, Jacob Caniglio was hounding the Lions every single opportunity he got. 26 disposals, incredible performance in the win for Perth.
Absolutely, and you mentioned Ollie Eastland stiff to miss out. The fact we've given 5 votes and the likes of Constable and Clark with 40 possessions, basically, it just shows what a cracking first round of WAFL it was and how many contributors there were across all clubs.
Absolutely, and of course, we'll show you the leaderboard for the first time, WAFL fans, at the start of round 5. So we're going to show you that starting from the 5th round to see who is leading. But of course, we'll recap those votes. 1 went to Lee Coleman of Swan Districts. East Perth Scott Jones got 2. Luke Meadows of West Perth got 3. Nathan Wilson of Peel Thunder got 4, and the top gun for this week is Jacob Caniglio of the Perth Football Club. The ladder looks like this following the opening round. Bit of an upside-down final 5 after 1 round, but anything can happen in a season of football. East Perth, Swan Districts, Peel Thunder, Perth and West Perth making up an unusual final 5 to start round 1, and then Claremont, Subiaco, West Coast, South and East Fremantle making up the bottom half. Who'd have thought we'd see 2 of the Fremantle sides at the bottom half of the ladder? Both of them hasn't happened since like the early 90s. My golly.
Strange things can happen after round 1.
Absolutely. Ethan, great job from you as always.
Thanks, mate. I'll see you on Thursday.
And we look forward to your company as well on Thursday for another great edition of Around the WAFL. Charlie Constable is going to join us this week, talking about Perth's great win over Subiaco and the big one that the Demons have got against West Perth on Saturday night. Thanks for your company. You can check us out on your podcast provider and on YouTube, and you can check out some of our social content on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. We'll see you on Thursday to look ahead to the second round.